We all know that planning is a fundamental element if you want to be successful. Coming up with a strategy is one of the most fundamental elements that will guarantee your success and will make sure that your efforts are guided towards a chosen goal. What strategic selling means is simply the fact that your sales need to have a strategy behind them. The least you leave to chance, the more control you'll have over the selling process. What strategic selling was about, it spoke about how one could optimize the information that one had before getting involved in an actual sales call. Once again, what I did was that I took this information and I contextualized it in the actual world, where selling is made digitally and not over the phone. So the first factor that you should have in mind whenever you want to sell something online is specialization. By this we mean that you need to define and choose exactly what your product is, what it is designed for, and what it can actually do for the prospect buyers. Remember, people buy not what your product is, they buy what your product can do for them. If you understand this claim, you will be able to get ahead of the game. Why? Because people focus too much on the features of the product. They expect that these features are the ones that will actually convince the prospect into buying. They spend so much time emphasizing that their product, for example, has cutting-edge technology, or that is produced by a company that's leading in some field, for example. But that's not what people want to hear. People want to hear the specific benefits that the product has and how will those benefits change their lives for the good. They need to be engaged in a gameplay of before and after, how the life of the prospect is before your product and how it will be after your prospect buys the product. I'm not just talking about physical products here. Creating a digital pitch is actually simpler than having an actual sales call. Why? Because a digital pitch allows you to show images. With a digital pitch, you can show the actual results of the product, and your prospect will be able to see how the product works and how the product can change his life, what the product actually does. They can see it because the digital pitch actually makes use of the visual communication. So what you need to have clear now is that your product should have a specific result, a defined goal. And this goal should be flawlessly trespassed to the prospect buyer in this pitch. But this goal needs to be specific. What your product is needs to be specific. If it's not specific, you will generate many doubts in the head of your prospect buyer that will keep him or her from making a purchase decision. It's simple as that. So, if you want to convey this successfully, you first need to know yourself. You are the first one that needs to be clear about what your product does. So, when you start packing your WSO or your ClickBank or ClickSure or JVSU product, you need to make sure that you know the purpose of your product. What is it for? What change will it bring on the prospect buyers? And most importantly of all, you need to know the specific goals that your product will achieve. After you've managed to identified what your product is and the specific results that your product will get, you need to start asking yourself, how is my product different from every other product in the market? We're now speaking about differentiation, and this is actually a core value that your customers and prospect buyers will immediately pick up. Here you need to define actually what makes your product unique. People are tired of buying more of the same. They need in their lives something that is different. And this factor that makes your product different is actually one of its core values. See, you can jump into any market that you imagine. You can create products in any niche that you find out there. But unless you differentiate your product, it will be just one more of the same. And you don't want that. You want your product to be different. You want your product to have a unique value that sets your product aside from every other product in the niche that it already exists. Your product needs to be different. It needs to be unique, one of a kind. So what you need to define here is not what makes your product better, it's what makes your product superior. What will you offer in your product or service that is innovative, that people haven't seen before? And people are enormously attracted to the new, to the unknown. So, will you be able to give them this that they don't know? Will you be able to give them this, what they need? But in order to be different, you need to know what your prospect buyer wants. But you can't know what they want if you don't know who they are. This is where the third factor comes to play. Segmentation. By segmentation, I mean which are the prospect buyers, which is the segment of the population that will benefit the most out of your product. Here is where you do your research and actually choose a niche that your product belongs to. Internet marketing, for example, if you were launching a WSO, has a lot of niches that you can work with. For example, you have CPA, offline marketing, affiliate marketing, YouTube marketing, traffic, you have video marketing, Amazon affiliates, you have, for example, project management, consulting, product creation, SEO, membership site ownership, niche research, keyword research, AdSense, PPC, AdWords, social media, Twitter marketing, online coaching. These are all segments within the internet marketing area. So what you need to do on this step is to define exactly where your product falls to, which is this segment that your products belong to. Now, once you're able to identify this niche or segment, you need to know exactly which is the type of person within that niche or segment that will actually buy your product. And once you choose that ideal prospect buyer, you need to focus exactly on that prospect buyer. Why? Because these are the prospects that have the highest potential. Whenever you create something, whenever you launch a WSO or a standalone product, you need to know who is the ideal buyer of that product. If you're able to identify who this ideal buyer is, you can fill out a profile. You can see what they like, you can see what they love, and you can see what they don't like at all, so you can avoid that altogether. You can see which are the times when they are online the most, where in the day you can find your prospect buyer online. So There are a lot of advantages towards filling out this ideal customer profile. It's one of the most important steps of product development to know who you're selling to, because you can choose what colors you use in the font of your sales pitch. You can use which is the message that you need to deliver. You can choose all of that based on this ideal buyer profile. Your product, of course, will belong to a niche, and this niche has different types of people that are part and belong to this niche. You need to know exactly who your product is aimed for. This is the crucial and most important part of product development, to know who you're speaking with. I know, for example, that this product is directed at the people that want to learn how to write copy and how to enhance the copy in order to maximize conversions. That is the specific audience that I'm speaking to right now. I know what they want, I know what they don't want, and that's mainly because I'm part of those people as well. I looked everywhere for some place in which I could learn how to sell more, how I could squeeze the last drop out of my traffic, and how I could maximize the amount of people that were buying my products. This was my need, and I decided that I would develop a product based on this because I couldn't find any other product out there. So as I know who I am and what I like and what I don't like, I started making my research and finding out that there were a lot of people like me, and I started developing this product having these people in mind. These are the people that do not have the time to read a whole book. What you're listening to right now is the summary, for example, of the whole sales psychology book. Every concept that that book speaks about is found here. So what I'm actually doing, and where I have a unique approach, is that I'm teaching you about sales psychology, and that's my unique approach. I'm giving people essential information but up to date. Actually, all the books on sales psychology and neuromarketing that I speak about here are actually focused on live cold sales calls. And what I'm doing is that I'm not only summarizing those books for you and giving you a lot of extra information, but I'm contextualizing that in the digital world, the world of digital selling, where people create products and then create sales site and then expose that sales site to a large amount of people. So what I'm basically doing is I'm teaching you how to save your money by minimizing the amount of people that do not buy your products. So knowing exactly who your prospect buyer is actually a real time saver, and you won't just save time, you will save a lot of money as well, because you know who your target audience is and you know exactly which is the type of people that you need to send to your sales copy. So focus is about defining exactly who your product is developed for and who will be the people that will benefit the most out of this product. So in order for you to be able to come up with a good sales strategy, you need to define exactly what your product is, what it is designed for, and what it can do for your prospect buyer. Then you need to define what makes your product different, what makes it unique, and what are the factors that make your product superior. Then you need to choose the segment of the market where your prospect buyers are, which is the niche that your product belongs to. And when you're able to identify that niche, you need to focus on the exact type of people that will actually buy your product, which is the exact prospect buyer that you need to buy your product. You can also fill out a profile that actually speaks about your ideal target buyer, and you can make a list of all of his interests, likes, dislikes, passions, etc. These are the 4 main elements of strategic selling, and I advise that you give this process, the identifying these 4 elements, the amount of time that you think is necessary to come up with a solid sales strategy.